Welcome to Daddy Talk Around the World. Today's guest is my friend, my brother, Raheem Anderson. And welcome to the show, Raheem.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Calvin.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So on Daddy Talk, we like to get the fatherhood stories. You know, it's real quiet out there about us, but we're making a lot of impact. We get a lot of good things done. And, I want to make sure that we get your story today. With that being said, my first question to you is, would you support a shared parenting bill?
Absolutely. I've been, you've been an advocate, or well, you've been putting it out there, and it's just weird to me that there's actually a bill for shared parenting. But shared parenting. It's kind of like it's in itself parenting, meaning that you're supposed to do this thing together. So
Right, right. That's generally how this thing works. But we are building a campaign,
mhm.
getting more fathers, getting more membership to get ready to get behind the one here. A few of them has been passed across the country in other states,
Okay.
but Michigan, it's going to be a thump for that here.
Mhm.
So, we need to raise the level of memberships, men, and our voices. So that's the reason for the question. The second is the best part of the show. Tell us your fatherhood story. You have the mic. You can share it from wherever you want to go, brother.
Imagine if you will. Okay, so my fatherhood story. My fatherhood story is pretty interesting. I didn't realize how interesting it was until you know you go along through life. Um, I was born on the east side of Detroit on a street called, some people say pronounce it as Hilliger, some people pronounce it as Hilger. Well, uh, it's over there. It's a Chrysler plant now. Um, my mother and father were were married, and my mother got pregnant her senior year in high school, and they were married, and they had my older sister Shahara, and then I came along about 4 years later. Their first home was on Whittier and Dickerson. And back in those days, everybody pretty much partied and hung out in there. So they were the first people in their little circle with a house. So you know, needless to say, there was a lot of parties in the house that I grew up in. Um, in terms of fatherhood, my mother and father were together until I was about 3 years old. You know, different things happened. They broke up, um, but I never was without a father. My mother got with my stepfather like pretty much immediately, probably before the summer was over. Um, the family was blended, so throughout life, later on, probably about the early '80s, my mother and father had joint custody, although they were in two different households. So I never was without a father. You know, it's an interesting thing. Both of my fathers were well, they were fairly young when I was born, so we kind of grew up together, so to speak. Um, by them not having too much of male role models in that respect, my father, my biological father, had to actually be. His siblings called him Papa Eddie. My father's name is Edward Anderson. My stepfather's name was Frederick Wilson, and they actually it's a weird story because they were friends. Tell you the twist of my life. So anyway, so they grew up together, and both of the families were kind of intertwined. Um, but needless to say, I would have journeyed with them more so than them being in authoritative positions and telling me to do this and telling me to do that. Because they were little knuckleheads. Both of them were street dudes at the time, and they eventually got their lives together. My biological father wound up being a substance abuse counselor, international gambling counselor. Because he dabbled um, in that industry and wanted to dedicate the rest of his life to helping those who he felt like he hurt. Um, Also, he was a ballroom instructor. He went around the country ballrooming. Um, I did a lot of community service with him. I pretty much grew up in the NSO 24-hour walk-in center. Harbor Light, all that stuff. Where I learned how to dance. They used to go to this club. It was called the Mac Center, where everybody was recovering alcoholics and or substance abusers, and they would just dance. They had nothing else to do. It was a
Right.
live band, and they would dance. And so that's what my mother and my before the recovery period. Now that I look back, my mother had this idea. And I know that you can't babysit your own children. But for some reason, my mother used to let my father babysit me. I don't know why she did that, because when he was out there, I was raised in after hours, and I was the entertainment. I can remember him saying right now, "Do the James Brown." Anita Baker singing on the stage. Like, what is a kid doing in the club, first of all, let alone the after hours? So every after hours you can think of, I've been in, from Club 800 to the Grand Five Social Lottery Club, which I wound up buying later on. That's another story. And I took it from being after hours and made it a building. I actually leased it out to some doctors. So just to try to, I had the opportunity to change the narrative, so to speak. Yeah.
Right.
And so that being said, I grew up with two dads. I didn't realize how important that was. My stepfather wound up, he was knucklehead too, street dude running around. But it's funny thing with him, he showed me how to work the penny stocks. You know what I'm saying? He used to be really heavy in the stocks with penny stocks, and he couldn't read too well. So back then we had vinyl albums, and so he and I'm being a toddler, a young person, 5 years old. We learned how to read together. Hooked on phonics he had, and so we learned how to read together. I watched him become a chef. He wound up becoming a chef, and of course I had to be the prep cook and things of that nature. And both of them were excellent cooks, and just I was blessed to have that contributed to the issues, who decided to change their lives and help people and help others. So that's all I know, is helping people. Just my mother, she was district delegate, things of that nature. All I know is helping people. That's just it. I wanted to grow up and be a drug abuse counselor. I remember I used to go to in the 24-hour walk-in center after school when I got to high school, and I used to sit in their little group meeting, and I stood up one day. I was like, I want to be a drug abuse counselor, and this dude, he was like, "Young blood, you ain't never did drugs before. How you gonna help somebody?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're right." So I deterred from that, right? So years later, it's gonna be a lot of flashback. Years later, I became a referral agent at the Bureau of Substance Abuse. I started off on the hotline, and I wound up, my reviews were so good, so they promoted me to face-to-face. And so I had my own office. I had edification everywhere. They come in, bam, right there, scripture. Bah! Care what you believe, man. God gonna help you now.
Right.
As a referral agent, what we do is we take an assessment, and we refer you to the right level of care based on your assessment. And so I had that moment back. I'm older now, a dad myself, wife and kids, and I had that moment back. The guy was like, "You ain't never did you don't look like you ever did anything." And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna sit up here and try to, argue with you and tell you what I've done and what I haven't done. But I could tell you one thing. I could tell you what you're doing to your kids. And I went into detail and went into the story about how horrible it was to have a parent on drugs. To know how it feel to give them empathy or go deep down inside. Do you know how it feels? You have no idea how your child feel having to crack contact. You know what I'm saying? My sister and I, you know why I never snorted cocaine? We used to see everything in my house was shiny. I thought I thought they were lamps, but they were bongs in the corner. But and then they used to run the lines on all the shiny tables, all the shiny toppings, right? So the
Right.
reason why I never did cocaine, me and my sister tried to emulate that one day, right? So we in the bathroom, and my sister set the lines up. I was like, "Come try this." It was with some freaking powdered washing detergent, laundry
Yeah.
detergent, and I went out, hit that. Ah! Running through the house as a kid, man, it fried my brain. You know, first of all, thank God I survived that.
It's real.
But
Real.
that right there, it's a blessing too, because I was like, oh heck,
Yeah.
that's they were young and they didn't know what they was doing around the kids.
Yeah. That
That's why
influence.
that's all you know. That's all you see people
Yeah.
snorting. And so that's a little bit of my childhood as it pertains to that. What I did the different. My mother moved around a lot, so by her moving around a lot, that enabled me to pretty much be in every neighborhood because they had joint custody. So I spent half the week with my dad, half the week with my mother. My dad wound up getting his life together. He moved on 7 Mile between Pennington and Santa Barbara. Uh, with my mom, we lived in. I moved west, east. I've been to a lot of schools. She was getting it together. And that being said, through all of that, um, I played sports. I played sports because it was so much to do. There was so much to get into. I played sports, and that really just took me away from everything. But when there was a time where I couldn't afford to pay to play sports or something like that, what I did, I just changed the neighborhoods, man. Neighborhood, the drug dealers telling you to do this, and tell you, they like to recruit the youngin to do stuff. Back in those days, I don't know what they're doing now, but so I changed it to, I showed them how to break dance. We used to take the cardboard. Somebody get a brand new refrigerator or something. That was the best thing that ever happened. We take that cardboard, lay that cardboard
Right.
out, start break dancing, right?
Right.
And so I was like, man, I was just showing them how to be kids, because that's all we did. We was being kids. Somebody throw out a mattress, what we do? Take that mattress and flip on it, man. We must have had some kind of, I don't know what our immune system was, because imagine, what does it take for you to throw out a mattress right now? What kind of war is that? That was like gold to us, It was
Right.
like,
Right. Right.
if it got real nasty, we just ripped the cover off and just use the springs.
That's it. That was it.
So every school, we had the box with the X on it. We played baseball. We raced and ran and flipped every day. I don't care if your handlebars were stripped. We catwalked. If
Yeah.
you jumped the ramp and your handlebars were stripped, you just went down on there and pulled it back up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we were just fearless. I remember on Houston and Whittier growing up. I'm just a little kid. I'm pretty much a toddler. But what we did? The garages was so close. We used to hit the block, jumping from garage to garage on top of the
Yeah.
garage.
Because they were so
They were
close.
so tight. And
Yeah.
look, this is how goofy we was. I say fearless, but it was really goofy. One of them was just a little bit further where you had to flip in order to make it. If you didn't do a flip or something, you was gonna hit the ground. So we was like daredevils, man. You had to do something sweet. And if you didn't do nothing sweet, we kicked your butt. And
Right.
in the winter time, we I don't know if did you ever go shagging? You remember shagging?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So any ensuing truck or vehicle that go by, we put there go one of my boys right there. We put the grocery bags on our shoes, grab that mug, and let's tell you how crazy we were. When you let go, you had to do something sweet. Not only could you have killed yourself from being run over by a truck, but if you let go and you didn't do nothing sweet, you got beat down. I had the pleasure of living in the Jeffrey Projects in the late 70s, early 80s. I say that's a pleasure because that made a man out of me, man, because I had a bunch of sisters, to aunties, so I had all of the recipe to be not so manly, so to
Right.
speak.
Right.
And the Jeffrey Projects made me tough, man. I had to play, we call pick 'em up, mess 'em up. Pick 'em up, mess 'em up. We didn't always have a ball either. We used whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And I was 5, and I was playing with 15-year-olds. And And 15-year-olds in the projects,
15-year-olds in the project.
no supervision. So you had to be tough. I had to learn how to juke. I had to learn how to power, because guess what? When you make a touchdown, that's not really a reward, because you got to come back.
You got to bring it back.
You got to bring it back. You better not throw it when somebody come lay the boom on you. You better not throw that mug, or we all gonna get you. You know. So those little lessons, man. Walking to the store, it was an adventure. You'll see somebody we used to call it getting checked in. You'll see this guy fully clothed by the time he got to the bridge, but he was naked walking time he got across the bridge. I mean, necessarily all of the dangers wasn't really us, because you also had the danger of some pedophile trying to swoop up, somebody from not your race, somebody that you're not used to seeing, trying to swoop up and get you. They used to prey on those neighborhoods, What I did appreciate about it is the unity. You had that, flower child community that did reach out to us. So I had the pleasure of being in like traveling choirs. I was one of the kids they used to call it the reading roll quiz with the bad cameras. You see, I'm dark skinned, so all you saw was teeth and eyes. And we were reading books. So we did have that. The free lunches was the bomb. So I thought back then that belonged.
Right. Excuse me.
So anyway, I know we're supposed to be talking about fatherhood.
No, do your thing. Do your thing.
So all that being said, man, the reason why I wanted to mention all of that is because my parents both had kids, another set of kids. So I was no longer the youngest. And although my fathers both got their stuff together, they were adjusting to being husbands. So part of being a husband is you got to stay your butt at home more than you be out in the streets. And you got to deal with stuff that goes on at home. So I had 2 houses, and both my houses, pretty much, they wasn't there. But guess who's responsible to take care of the house while they were out? Me. So I pretty much I've been a daddy all my life, not only a daddy in my household, but even amongst my peers, because those same guys that toughened me up at 15, when they were 15 and I was 5, used to try to get off into some other stuff, and I always had to be that voice of reason, because they respected me because I was a kid and I didn't back down. You know what I'm saying? Even if I lost a fight, which was rare, I went down swinging, And then, God forbid, my cousin TC, she'll come, man, and we'll mop some people up. That's at least 15 people. The girls in my family is tough, boy. But it was funny. All of that being said, everything about parenthood until you become a parent, especially a daddy thing, because we haven't really been seeing good examples of being a father. So to start this thing out, what I did was I just said, okay, I'm gonna do the opposite of everything that I saw.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I wanted to change the narrative. I didn't want to have, what was in front of me was, it was easy to have multiple baby mamas. They was like, hey man, when she messed up, just go get you another one.
Yeah. Oh man.
Just go get another one.
That advice.
That's the terriblest. That's the worst advice you can get. Because now you got 2 to deal with, or 3 or 4, 5. You ain't even dealt with the first one. Everybody got different days. You ain't never say. It's like pop, 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 pop. You just got 30 days of just terror.
Right.
So, all that being said, that's what drove me, and what I just want to change the narrative. Do something. This can't be it. This cannot be it. So fast forward. The other thing I did, because I got older, and I started seeking, different faiths and everything. You know what I'm saying? Because now I know something. I'm smart now. The business things, I know something. I'm a young 19, 20-year-old. I'm like, I'm about to try all this stuff out. So finally, fast forward, I met my wife. I prayed. I was like, I don't know. I had a bunch of girlfriends. I'm tired of this. I'm tired. I said, God, I just need a wife and son. And when I met my wife, she had already had a son. And so I'm like, whoa. God answered my prayer. But
Right.
still, I'm still at this point, I'm still doubting God, right? And I was just like, okay. So I'm all in, went in. She didn't say nothing about church, so I ain't say nothing about church, right? You know, in our neighborhood, the women the ones be like, come on, get up and go to church. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
way we was raised.
Yeah.
So I took on the challenge or whatever. We did fall in love, don't get me wrong. I fell in love with her. I fell in love with Cameron, my oldest boy. I mean, it was just like, it was a no-brainer. Um, took on a challenge. I had no idea, man. I was terrified. I was like, oh God, it's totally different. So still, this is not even my biological son yet, and still things change from your perspective, and you know it all when you're not being the dad at all, right?
Right.
And so okay, boom, boom, boom. You know, I'm listening to everybody else, not depending. Not I just gave you the backstory. I've been a daddy all my life, but I'm like that. I'm listening. If you have a degree, I'm like, oh, okay. If you have some gray hair, I'm like, shoot, okay. You know what I'm saying? Not once did I tell you I prayed and went to the source, right? So fast forward a few years later, I'm just, you know what? My mother been telling me all my life, read the book of Proverbs. Read the book of Proverbs. Like, oh yeah, I did, Ma. I did. Read the book of Proverbs. I did. So I picked up the book and started reading the book of Proverbs. And I was like, oh man, I wish I would bull cracking because it was a lot of answers. Proverbs, you know, just being a man growing up. And so I started reading it. So I just started pouring into Cameron, you know what I'm saying? And just having him do stuff. And when he got old enough to do whatever it is I asked him to do and come back and give me that praise report and say, thank you, Father, and ask me for something else, that's when my doubt got removed. Right. So that's also a challenge when you don't introduce your faith early in the relationship, people are gonna think you full of crap.
Hey, but
Where you come up with this?
that
You come
fear
up.
right there,
Uh,
that piece of fear, as soon
yeah.
as they say, okay, you're now a father, like that fear, and I don't think people really understand that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like that fear is epic fear. You know, I just wanted to make that clear that when you become a father, it's a complete transition into some whole nother values. And when you don't know that, and you just go off man's perspective, you're in trouble.
It's nothing. You never felt it before. You're totally, completely out of your element because you've been the guy. You've been that guy. You've been dashing. You've been the answer that, you know. You've been the man. You've been the manager. You've been employee of the month. But being a daddy, that's something totally different. Being a father, not every, put it like this. Listen, I was a bouncer. One of the things I did, and I was welcoming the fights and you know, let's go. They come back and shoot the club up. So what? Let's go. You know, um, but I was still doing it when I got with Kim and we moved in together. You know, and things changed. I became a cooler now. I'm like, oh man, you drunk. You didn't know no better. I started worrying about making it home. But before I what, I'm taking somebody through the wrong end of the door on purpose. I was picking fights. You know what I'm saying? Working for the worst bar owners, the ones who be sleeping with everybody's girl, and you know what I'm saying, because they pay the most. And that's the ones who get you killed because once they men find out, they come up there shooting the club up because they sleeping with their woman or whatever. Which is look, that's manhood, right? Fatherhood. Um, so I started like I got to make it home. I got to make it home. So I tried to reinvent myself. I would look up, you know, I started just reading like financial pieces and things like that. One thing that happened when my wife and I got together is I got into her family had a real estate company. I had just so happened to go to real estate school and was interested in that.
Excuse
And
me.
you know, I started off taking pictures for the appraisal company. You know, and her daddy was like, "You need to write loans. I ain't wrote loans in 20 years. Here's some numbers and here's a file you can work on." I was like, "Cool," because I had been delivering packages and my family, my cousins had a mortgage company. I used to go to UPS, USPS. Uh, I was the FedEx guy. I was the package guy. And over there, I got promoted over there. I got promoted to filing, and then I got promoted to selling everybody in the cabinet that was filing some type of network marketing. So I tell anybody if they're gonna get off in the sales, do network marketing because you're gonna get a lot of no's. And when you figure out how to turn that no into a yes, you're a beast. Hey, can't nobody tell you nothing. But anyway,
Right.
So I wound up with my own mortgage company. I was terrified again. It took me 8 months to close my first deal, man. 'Cause I'm studying matrices and guidelines and all that stuff. I'm like, oh, this is the biggest investment in somebody else's life. Somebody gonna make it in their life. I don't want to mess it up, right?
Right.
So the only thing to do with that is just do it. Just like this fatherhood thing, you just got to do it. And my doubt was removed. 2 more children. My biological Raheem and Kamari. As a matter of fact, nobody knew that Cameron was my stepson until he said something at his graduation party to his friend. That's how I never treated him like a stepson.
No. We have a tendency to love.
Yeah, I've been a coach, first coach in a lot of stuff. I've coached and parent teacher conference and chaperone.
But you can tell where you get it from. The whole back when you was young, the two families. It just the story just evolved to where you get it from.
Who I am.
It's not the Harlequin romance story that
Right.
You'll see on Channel 7, but it's the story that really cultivated that in you. So of course you was gonna love it. It's all you was taught.
Because I had a stepdaddy. It wasn't no big deal. I had a stepdaddy. I took my stepdad. I was 5 years old. I took him to McDonald's for his birthday. He talked about that for the rest of my life till he passed away. The rest of his life. You know what I'm saying? And another thing that was an anchor was my mother's aunts and her mother, my grandmother. They were all like community activists. So my great grandmother did the dedication for Budsell Family Center on the east side. There's still, they had an exhibit up for her in Charles H. Wright Museum. But the thing is, at the time we had to say yes ma'am and no sir to our elders, and we was working the polls and passing out political signs, and
Right.
She had us running track on Belle Isle, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So fast forward to me becoming a father. So now I'm in the Word. I got the Strong's Dictionary. I'm armor bearer for about 2 or 3 pastors. I armor bearer for some people, aspiring pastors. And it was funny. During a time of my life, we had a family church on my mother's side, and my uncle Benny was the pastor. And then when he passed away, we kind of dispersed. And my mother used to go around from church to church, and I would be asleep. So it was funny how she'll wake me up and ask me, well, she'll ask me to correct her notes because I was asleep. I still was getting the word, and I was correcting her notes. But guess what? I wasn't even exposed to all of the traditions and the stuff that we, that don't make, that church is not the man-made part of the church.
Right.
So I used to get up, I'm like, no, man, he's talking about this. So at any rate, the pastors that I wound up armor bearing, it's kind of like, how a psychologist is sitting there talking to you and you laying on the couch. So it never failed that every time I came in there, they was waiting on me to come. Now they on the couch and I'm sitting there with the clipboard. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be armor bearing you. You know what I'm saying? They're like, man, I'm glad you came. Let me tell you. Because I was like, my Uncle Benny was the pastor and he had me with him, So everybody I've been around my entire life was always a boss. So you being a pastor, you didn't look like nothing but, nothing more than just another person to me. You know what I'm saying? I didn't hold you. I respected you. I respected everybody, but I didn't hold you in such a regard. So the pastors appreciated that. You know what I'm saying? People fussing over them and this, that, and the third. And I just say, hey, what up, pastor? What up, though? East Side vernacular, whatever. And so, that part alone, just like, come on. And you get in trouble too. Somebody been serving their past for 10, 15 years, and here you come, you get to ride in the car with them. Like, where he come from? I got to ride in the second car. I'm like, man, this church stuff is something else. But it's just been a great journey, man. My sons, I married into a family of intellectuals. I keep a lot of intellectuals around me, so it's funny how I doubted who I was because I was impressed by their acronyms, right?
Right.
So throughout my life, I had a lot of armchair parents, a lot of people who can tell you what you're doing wrong, right? And I quieted that noise, and I just gave my children everything that I had, no matter whatever I had. And the message that to the fathers is, whatever you got to bring to the table is what's needed. And so I just gave them everything, all the theories, everything from my dad, everything. It was crazy. When anybody that intoxicated or whatever, any type of, if you're a good person, they'll give you some advice. I guarantee you can cross-reference it in the Bible. I'll never forget. I got into a fight with about 5 dudes, and then they brought some more people the next time, right? So I kind of, I didn't win that one. I came home crying. First, I got a whooping first, because back then you couldn't come home crying.
Right.
They whoop you first and then ask what happened later.
Right.
So after I got a whooping, my stepdad came in the room like, "What you made me whoop you for, boy? What you come home crying for?" Right? And so I was like, I can beat 5 people, but how can you beat 10? He drunk. He said, man, you gotta make your whole body a weapon. You know what I'm saying? So I did that physically, but in the Bible it said, you got to put on the full armor.
Armor, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everything you can cross-reference. But I did that, man. I'm talking, I was doing push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. It was like, if you hit me in the back, you was gonna break your hand.
I got to get ready for you,
dog. If you hit me, you gonna break something. So I could concentrate on this joker. Somebody busted me in the back of the head or trying to choke me, they can't even choke me. I made my neck so thick, I turned into Lou Ferrigno. I didn't care. You know what I'm saying? I watched so many, them karate movies saved my life, man. I watched so many karate movies, boy. I watched Muhammad Ali so much, man. Please, you couldn't mess with me. And then I got grimy with it.
Right.
I'll never forget my stepdaddy said, well, if you're gonna lose the fight, turn him around and bite him in his back and pull the plug out. I ain't gonna tell you how many fights I won. I'm riding like hey.
Right.
We ain't living in no neighborhoods where you could lose and still be, even the sports, the sports, you got to figure everybody was superior athletes. So I just didn't want to be no scrub. I wasn't about to be the scrub. If you was a scrub, that was the worst thing you could be, is a scrub.
That's right.
So I might be a scrub starting out, but this is not gonna end like this. We're gonna do this every day. We was outside from sun up to sundown. Otherwise, you had to be a slave if you was in the house and watch Ben-Hur.
COVID. What's COVID?
COVID.
We ate COVID back then.
Hey man, you be dusting soap scum.
Right.
That COVID in the 80s and 90s, 70s.
And that brings me to the ultimate question.
Okay.
What does fatherhood mean to you?
Well, to sum it all up, fatherhood means everything to me. After the long drawn out story of me, of my journey of being a father, it's so reciprocal. You know what I'm saying? You want to make sure that you have brevity in what you give them. You want to make sure that you have substance. For me, I try to make sure that I'm telling them something right, but I'm not scared to make a mistake. You're gonna make a mistake. That's how you learn. You don't really lose. It's a lesson. You know what I'm saying? So, but I try to prepare myself. I try to be as prepared as possible, because I know that at the end of the day, they listen to me. They're gonna try it, whatever it is I give them. If you teach them how to do something bad, guess what? Evolution say they're gonna be better at that something that you taught them how to be bad. So I try to teach them something good, so evolution can come back and teach me something. You know what I'm saying? So, well, it means everything. I mean, it's the best thing I've ever done. Wow. I couldn't imagine not being there. You know, when my kids fall, they say, "Dad." You know what I'm saying? You know how many times you fell and you like, "Mama." When they fall, they say, "Dad." You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember, needing to open the jar, and man, this dude ain't even here. You know what I'm saying? And now they like, "Dad." I mean, they big and strong now, but it means everything to me. It means the reward. I never thought, they stopped giving out smiley faces and stars long time ago. Trophies and all that. You don't get no participation trophy for being a daddy.
Right.
Your gift and your prize is just productive citizens. To me, and you got to be present to win. And so it just means everything to me, man. Being a father is yours. It's customized to you. So garbage in, garbage out. You know what I'm saying? What kind of, you know, what kind of you want back? What are you willing to invest? It's hard because you can. The thing is, they were getting themselves together. So I felt like as a child, you know, I was kind of put on a back burner. You know what I'm saying? In a lot of instances. So to me, I said I wasn't gonna do that. I was gonna design my life around their life, and I was gonna put my life second and put their lives first. But what happens is you trick yourself when you think that way because you got to get your stuff together in order to put their life first. You can't not be a provider. You can't not, uh, well, in my case, I had to be on my face when they sleep. When they sleep, I got to pray. You know what I'm saying? When you walk in my house, you could fall asleep because there's men praying in this house. Don't get me wrong. I grew up in a woman praying house, and that's great too. But it's something about the shift in the atmosphere when the men pray. When the
That
men pray,
peace, be still.
you come in this mug and just be like,
That calm,
fall asleep, fall
security,
asleep.
presence, knowledge, wisdom,
Let's go.
strength,
Yes, sir.
loyalty. It's a bad boy.
It's a
Truth.
bad boy. Sound like fruits of the spirit to me.
It's that's why regardless to how people might feel about me, I'm celebrating it. I'm swagging it. I'm celebrating it, and I think it's just important that we start valuing ourselves through celebration as well. Run that. Run that.
Run
If
it.
you
Let's
want the
go.
balloons, the bar mitzvahs, the what's the name, well, look over here. Run that. And if you're not gonna do it, I'm gonna do it because I know what my value is.
Yes, sir. You gotta know. You gotta know. You gotta know. You gotta know that you know that you know. You gotta be self-rewarding.
Yeah.
Everything that you do, you gotta, try it out. Like, how people tell you, make a goal board. Make a goal board for your fatherhood.
Yeah.
What kind of father do you want to be? Like, like I told you, I had two daddies, but guess what? My daddy watched the Cosby Show. He had to learn some stuff from that. The drug dealer up the street. Like it was all kind of stuff. People was pulling daddyhood from everywhere. You got to pull it. You got to pull it. But in my case, I needed the guidance to keep me on the right track so I wouldn't stray was the word. And the word taught me how to have a relationship, right? So now me and God, we kicking it as opposed to it's being you do this and you do that. Now I'm like, look. And so that gives you the blueprint, the basis to be able to recreate that relationship with everybody. That's why me and you cool. Yeah, you might not like Raheem, I might not like Calvin, but I talk to you with the Christ in me. I let the Christ in me communicate with the Christ in you. You got to go through some things in order to deal with that. You know what I'm saying?
You'll never become iron if you don't. You'll always be flesh.
Woo!
Right. Here is I'm getting to this one, man, and we'll shut it down. But this has became my favorite one. And a lot of people, they don't understand it. I hear it all the time. They go, life and death is in the tongue. They always throw that up, the church, the cliche. I said, you know, y'all churches and cliches because, well, you know, Calvin, life and death is in the tongue. Okay. I'm gonna let you have that one. I'm taking the one before. Proverbs 18 and 20.
Mm-hmm.
From the fruit of his mouth, a man's stomach is filled.
Come on.
With the harvest from his lips, he is satisfied. I'm going to speak it, live it, do it, be it. Talk about me all you want to because you've been conditioned to do so. I'm grinding it.
Let's go.
Let's go. So
I like that one. I like that.
Oh, 18 and 20. It's amazing how, you know, we have these limitations in God's word, in the word itself. And, you know, that's why I try to, you know, I come away from the religion. Right. The word has not let me down.
The relationship. And so what book was that you made that quote in?
That's,
what was the book?
This has been Daddy Talk around the world.